workshop to order, and we will start with employee recognition. Bruce?
Okay, I'm going to let Tony recognize our lifeguards who just got back, a couple weeks ago from South Padre Island to win national championship, but I'll let Tony take it.
We got two or three of them here, but most of them.
Tony, can we have you come up to the mic so the people watching can hear you as well? Thank you.
We got three of our employees that went down to regionals and nationals and competed against, other competitors. A lot of our employees have went back to school, so that's why, we don't have all the rest of them here. And in regionals, they placed second in our division, which is 50 and under lifeguards, and in nationals we placed first. And they have their individual medals that they won in each competition with them. So we had several first place national winners that competed in the 2K and I don't remember the other event that they won first place in. So, but yeah, so we have Mia Hogan, Bryn Jewell, and Jackson Hudson here with us today.
Why don't you come on up, folks?
Yeah, come up.
You have to let us embarrass you.
Yeah,
Part of the drill.
show off that hardware.
Well, that is awesome. Introduce yourselves and come up to the microphone.
Mia Hogan. I've been working with Carolina Beach Ocean Rescue for 6 years, and it was an honor to be able to go out and compete and represent Carolina Beach Ocean Rescue at the regional and both at the national level as well. And, we could have done it without the people that stayed back and watched the beach for us. So.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks, Mia.
Yeah, I'm Bryn Jewell. This is my third year with the Ocean Rescue Program, and I went to regionals last year, and it was really exciting to be able to go to nationals this year. And I also want to thank the people that stayed back. They did an amazing job watching the beach.
My name's Jackson Hudson. I'm also a third year, and being able to compete for 2 years now that we've gone to regionals, it's just been an honor to come back, represent, and now to get to go compete at the national level was a ton of fun. But thank you.
Well, that's awesome. Congratulations, guys, and thank you for your representation.
I would just like to let you guys know that you really are, many instances, the first and only contact our visitors have with people that work for Carolina Beach. And your ambassador role that you play, not only what you do as a job, but just seeing you and your energy and everything you guys do on the beach, and then to go to a national competition is a fantastic thing for our community. And we really appreciate all your hard work. And you guys should be very proud. And this will be something you can look back on for years and know that the community really is grateful for your interaction with the public. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You made Carolina Beach proud. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Very well done.
And I think Jeremy's going to introduce a new employee.
Mayor, Council, good evening. I'd like to introduce,
Good morning.
or good morning, sorry. Can't, between all the night meetings and morning, I don't know where I am. But I'd like to introduce Brian Chaluli. Come on up, Brian. He is the new code enforcement officer. He
You can come on up. Don't be shy. This is CB.
yeah, he has over 20 years in the real estate industry, and brings in a lot of knowledge and experience to Carolina Beach. We're glad to have him. He started getting his code certificates prior to coming here, so he was something he was wanting to pursue. And I think now you're getting a little bit more sleep. He's got a 5-month-old at the house. So. So I'd just like to welcome Brian to the team.
Welcome.
Excited to be here. Nice to meet all you guys.
You should stay busy.
You will definitely be
Yeah.
busy.
Great to have you on the team. I'm sure you'll be very popular.
And last one, I want to recognize Sheila Nicholson As you know, she's the executive assistant to the town manager, but she does so much more than that. She's helps us all do our job. She makes all our meetings, everything we do around here happen. She's been unbelievable help to me since I've been here and helped everyone here. So she's been here for 10 years, and just wanted to recognize her and give her.
Come on.
Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you, Sheila. I have to echo Bruce's remarks, because a lot of times when I can't, if I don't get Bruce, I go straight to Sheila, and she takes care of it. I don't even have to give Bruce a call. So thank you, Sheila, for all the extra stuff you've done for me, too. So appreciate it. Do you have any more recognition?
I believe that's it.
All right, Planning and Zoning Committee update.
Good morning, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council and staff. I'm here this morning in my capacity as the Chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission. At our last meeting on Thursday, August the 12th, we held a workshop prior to our meeting to discuss our goals that we'd like to present to Council for things that we'd like to see our committee work on for the next year. We came up with 4 that we think are very important. The first one, of course, being the tree preservation, and we already know that Council has given us direction to work on that, and we've already started doing some discussion on things that we can do that will be proactive in getting this going. But that's the first one on our goals list. The second one is short-term rental regulations. We know that there's some legalities to that we have to look at, but we really feel that we need to address nuisance and abatement and some kind of registration, so that when we have emergency evacuations, be it a hurricane or pandemic, we need to be able to get in touch with people who are renting here and need to be evacuated. Third being stormwater. We would like to see some improvements to our existing ordinances and our permitting process to include something for enforcement, best management practices, and possibly penalties for negligent and negative impacts on the community. And then our last one would be to just review our ordinances that are already on the book and remove antiquated ones and possibly update some that need updating. And then, of course, any direction that you guys feel that we need to take. So that's what we have.
So I would assume that at the next handful of P&Z meetings, those 4 topics are always going to be something that's just going to sit there on your agenda, so you can loosely have an open discussion about.
Yes, sir. That's right. That's correct.
I know not everybody is pro Airbnb or not or whatever. It's a very touchy subject because we see what's going on within other realms in the county and other counties and with the state. So I would just say make sure you keep an eye on that and keep in contact with Dole.
Yeah, and that's the goal, is to make sure that we're in with the law, but also being able to have the responsibility as a government to reach out to these people if we need to have evacuations and that kind of thing. So, and if there's also a property that continues to be a nuisance.
So Deb, do you have any target? I mean, like on the tree preservation stuff, do you have some sort of goal that you guys are trying to come? You want to get to council in 2 months or 3 months? I mean, do you have an idea?
Well, I think that our goal is to have something to you guys by October. So at our September meeting, we're going to have some things to, and then we hopefully will have something to bring to council to the October meeting.
That'd be good. Thank you.
We've already got a lot of good ideas out there. We just got to get everything put together and make sure that we can move forward in a manner that's that's legal and appropriate.
So I think the goals you have make really good sense for the town, especially when you take a look at our priorities and such. One comment, I went back and looked at the last P&Z meeting, which was pretty interesting. The only thing I can recommend, and I'm sure people want us to do the same thing, is to talk in the microphone. There were a couple people that were really, really tough to hear during the whole meeting, which is tough.
I noticed that too when I was looking
Yeah,
at that.
so
So,
it's just an observation.
okay.
But I appreciate what you guys
All
do.
right. Thank you.
Any more questions for Deb?
The ordinance one should be fun.
Well, and so speaking of that,
There's a lot of stuff we
so
did.
as I was reading through some of the ordinances, I actually came across one that we already have on the books for tree preservation. It's under health, under chapter 12, and it talks about planting and protection of trees for public, for the town trees. So we've already got a little bit of a start, so we're just going to work on that.
Cool.
So.
Well, thanks, Deb, for bringing that to us, and we're certainly happy to review anything that you guys find that needs to be taken care of, and I'm sure Jeremy is all about that as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you. Before we move on, just want to ask Bruce a question. You and I talked about this the other day, about the House bill for the tree ordinance that's coming through, and would you explain to the public and to council what you and I talked about? Because I was told by someone on a higher level that we should go ahead and maybe put our tree ordinance in place before that House bill is possibly passed, and you had some insight on that.
Yeah, first of all, the House bill would prevent towns from adopting tree preservation ordinances. The bill has been taken out as a bill now and stuck in the budget as part of the budget approval. So if the budget's approved, but there's a lot of policy in the budget. Some of it will be removed, but right now it's in the budget. According to the way it's written right now, New Hanover County and all the municipalities had local legislation back in, I believe, in the 80s that enacted that we could have tree ordinances. And according to the way the legislation's written, that exempts us from this new bill. That's the way I read it, and that's the way town attorney reads it. So I still believe the way I read it and we read it, that we would be exempt if this legislation passes, that we could still enact a tree ordinance. But
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, but if there's any doubt, we could go ahead and, try to get one on the books. But I think the legislation, our exemption exists.
And the concern was that if we did not have one in place, we wouldn't be grandfathered.
Right.
So that's why Bruce and I were having that discussion, and Noel seems to think we're protected by that, so depending on how long it takes us to, come up with one, but we don't want to lose that ability to have ours in place before that bill is passed.
Right.
So,
I mean,
food
our
for thought.
best bet is to put one in place anyway, right?
Yeah, but I don't know what our time frame is looking like if we're not grandfathered in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that they're going to try to get the budget done because they've had some problems getting the budget passed the past few years. They're working hard, I think, this year with the governor and the House and Senate to get it approved this year. So I think it's still a negotiation, but I understand it's a better shot this year than there's been in the past to get something done. But
If we need to have a tree ordinance in place to be grandfathered, I would caution us to do something very simplistic. It is an extremely complicated issue, and every time we make rapid decisions, unintended consequences come back later to cause us problems. So a very simplistic tree ordinance that covers, if you say we need to have something in place, I don't think a well thought out, well heard, and well reasoned ordinance can be put in place in 30, 60 days. It's just a more complicated issue than that. A lot more complicated.
and I still think we
Yeah.
we have this law exempts us from it anyway, that we can adopt one later the way we read it. But if there was something we were any concerns, we could do a placeholder ordinance, like you said,
Well-
very, very basic.
Is the one that Deb is talking about that we currently have, can that serve as a placeholder?
Yeah, I'll run it by the attorney, see if it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're looking for, Bruce, is you to make sure that we are exempt, and we can amend that ordinance as needed, but we don't want to lose our time frame on that. Okay.
Is either the last meeting, the meeting before, is when Noel specifically said that we would be grandfathered in.
She did.
So as long as we can find the right way to handle it, there definitely is no need to rush it, but just make sure we take care of what we need to for the trees.
Okay, we'll move on to our financial update.
It's interesting they took that off a House bill and snuck it into the budget, which means they were getting a lot of traction on it. And
Exactly,
sneak it in.
exactly. Mm-hmm.
What else is in there?
Good morning, Mayor, Council. I just wanted to give you a very quick update on where we are right now at our fiscal year end. Our auditors are coming next week, so we're still in the middle of doing a lot of closeouts, and they'll have some closing entries that will affect some of these numbers when it's all said and done. So we'll have those numbers hopefully the beginning of October to give you final numbers, but these are my best projections right now. So I just wanted to give you where we are right now with our budget versus actual, which is a revenue over expenditures for the general fund, the same for the utility fund, and where our stormwater prevention fund is, or storm damage prevention. So our revenues for the general fund are 17.4 million. The expenses came out at 15.1 million. So that has given us a gain of 2.2 million. Right now, I'm estimating that to be about 27% because some of those funds do fall into the calculation that we have to do for the state held out for stabilization fund, because some of these were receivables that came in after June 30th, and then we had some payables that they throw in there. So it's still part of our overall fund balance. It's just not in the available to spend fund balance. So that comes clear after the auditors are finished doing all their numbers. So that's where I can give you a better idea, but right now I would just estimate about 27.
That estimated fund balance of 27 is the non-restricted,
That would be our spendable piece of the fund balance.
and what is, quote, non-spendable? What do we have, what items do we put aside money for that's, quote, non-spendable? Restricted?
In the, on the balance sheet, of course, you have that stabilization for state statute, so that's that calculation I was talking about.
Which is outside of that 27%.
Correct. So that's basically your receivables that you didn't get in, it filters in, or factors in your payables, things that you paid in July and August that really were for last fiscal year, because you hadn't spent that cash yet, but you spent it this year, so that was supposed to, it was a liability for last year. Then, of course, we have Powell bill, which is restricted just for Powell bill. If you have any other grant funds, those are allocated just for whatever that purpose was that you got the grant for. And then we have our storm damage prevention, which we have reserved for the storm damage prevention, but you could use if you needed to. So it's not.
But that money is not included in your
That's
estimated fund balance of 27%.
correct. That's the funds that are outside the
The
27.
reason I'm bringing this up is in the past, you'd seen where the town had 50% fund balance reserves. I would suggest to you that 50% included everything. It included the 8%. It included the Powell bill money. It included the sand dollars that we had set aside. So you see that. So if you have 27% that's unrestricted, I'm just trying to get us to parity so that we're looking at the same numbers over time. When people come back and say, well, we've had 50%, and then the other complication is our budget has gone from 12 million to 17 million. So if you try, you know, the percentage of 12 million versus the percentage of 17 million, it gets a little harder to start squirreling away that cash when we have these big projects. I'm not saying it's a good thing or bad, just want to make sure you guys we're all tracking the same number. Right, Fred?
On the utility fund side, we netted almost 10.1 million in revenues. Expenses came out to 8.1, so we have a gain of 1.8 million.
Debbie, do you think that'll be the final gain or pretty close to it?
That one, we have to account for the OPEB in that, and that's a little bit more.
You have to count for the what?
OPEB, which is our post-employee benefits, that's the healthcare insurance. So usually that total adjustment is a little bit higher on this because it's more like a regular business fund instead of a general fund situation. So that one, it's going to be close, but it's kind of hard to say until we get all of the numbers posted for
So
that.
Bruce, I mean, we have 18% excess revenue in a year. I mean, pretty close to 18%.
Yeah.
Which is hard for us to justify and is palatable to our public when we keep raising our rates. Right, when we did that bond issue, the idea was we were going to raise the rates to cover the covenant in the bond that said we had to have so much, 120% or 125% of the bond payment. We were going to draw down on reserves, raise the rates, pay off other debt. It was a balancing act so that we could make that payment on the bonds. But I don't think we had envisioned 18% in excess revenue and continuing to raise the rates. That's just going to come back in the future when we continue to talk about rate increases or additional projects. 18% is pretty stiff.
It is.
I mean, that's great, but it's
Right.
pretty hard to justify keep raising our rates if we're at 18%.
I was going to mention another reason why that expense is a little lower is because we did have the 359,000 in carryovers that we rolled over this year, so that reduced that expense. 100,000 that we had in there for stormwater.
Right, but those were projects
some
that we had
other-
budgeted the previous year, we had
Right.
approved, we'd funded, we just didn't spend.
Correct. That's why that expenditure is a little down. If we'd spent that money, then you at least would have had that in. You still would have come out quite ahead.
What was that number for the past 3 years? Fiscal year ending 2020, was there a surplus? Fiscal year 2019, was there a surplus?
Last year, after the auditors finished with all of their numbers, it actually was a negative 61,000.
Okay, so this is the first time in a while we've had a huge increase.
Yeah, and that's why it's hard to say what that number's gonna be until the auditors have finished doing all of their entries. So after they're through, I'll have better idea of exactly where all of these fall out.
And then in these numbers, Debbie, did we have a transfer from utilities to the general fund for our,
We did, we had the
we did.
725.
Next year, we don't have that budgeted, right? Or we reduced that amount?
It's still budgeted next year.
Yeah, we
but
budgeted for it, but we reduced it to 400,000 because we had that 300,000 payout that we had to do
Okay,
for the.
which is, for me, is hard to understand why, just because we have a rollover of 350, the cost that we expend as a community for your time, for Kim's time, for Debbie's time, for Sheila's time, that are dedicated to utilities, the general and administrative costs for the building, those percentages were established that said, this is how much of our overall time and furniture, fixtures, and equipment are spent on utilities and should be paid by the utility department to the general fund. Reducing that, did we get less time out of you or Debbie on utilities, or less time out of Sheila, or you know, the office, they use the same amount of office space? So I understand we did that to balance the budget. I'm just cautionary that if your true costs are $600,000, those are your true costs. Find
Yeah,
your
where's
savings
that from?
somewhere else, because you're penalizing the general fund. That's, I'm going over this because as Jodanne has pointed out so many times, I'm not gonna be here next year. So I get my last shot at some of this.
Not just you.
So I just want, you see what I'm saying? If your general administrative costs are $650, you can't just arbitrarily reduce it and say, well, we didn't get as much, we have less office space from utilities this year. No, we
Yeah,
don't.
I think your point, Steve, is that in the budgeting process, there's always this give and take that happens to make a balanced budget. But some of those decisions shouldn't live from year to year. They shouldn't be institutionalized. If that's the cost, is what you're saying.
The cost is the cost, and I'm saying yes.
Right.
And it's very risky to find the money somewhere else, is what I'm saying. It's not fair to the general fund to short it because we're trying to massage a budget. I mean, come up with cuts somewhere else. Well,
But
we
they,
apparently didn't need them because we got 18% overage. So anyway, moving on, Debbie, it's just
Okay.
good numbers. Thank you.
Okay.
oops, can you
Any
go
more
back?
questions?
Can we go back to
Oh,
the last screen?
I had one more slide, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
And just to update you on the storm damage prevention fund, last year we had the 1.95 million. We dumped the 350 in that we had in the budget, as we've been doing every year, so now we're at the 2.3 million. And I know that was very important with what's going on right now, so I wanted to keep you updated on that.
I'm sure people are gonna ask about that fund and what it's used for. Could you give a quick rundown?
That money is our funds that we're setting aside in case we have to start contributing to beach renourishment. So this was started several years ago to try to help build up a reserve to help us in that efforts. If what happened is happening now, we're not sure we're gonna get funded from the feds any longer.
Is that 2.3 factored into the 27%?
No, that's outside the 27%. It's considered in your overall total fund balance, but that's just the part that we have, as a town, said we're setting that aside for this special purpose. But you can tap into that fund if you had a hurricane or something along those lines and you really needed to tap into those funds until you got FEMA reimbursements.
In case of people out there don't understand what those percentages means, when we get on council, they tell you that from a budgetary standpoint that your oh crap number should be about 8%. 8% pretty much allows a municipality to handle itself for 30 days comfortably. And so when you hear that number, it just kind of, that's where it factors into. Not having that 2.3 added into that 27%. That's another line item that you move to the side. It's kind of tricky. Thanks, Devin.
Okay, any more questions for Debbie?
Thank you, Debbie.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Debbie, for the update and presentation.
When do
Storm-
they typically start that audit?
They come next week. They used to come this after Labor Day, but they've started coming a week earlier. So that hopefully will mean I'll be able to give you the numbers, final numbers, a little sooner than we used to.
Okay.
Okay, stormwater update?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm gonna ask Brandon Wise to come up. He's our new stormwater manager, and he's gonna
Okay.
give a little update where we are on some of our projects and give a little more information.
Morning.
Morning. So, as he said, I'm the new stormwater manager. For those of you that I have not met or gotten to talk to, kind of want to run down because I know stormwater has been a hot topic recently. So we kind of want to run down of what we're doing, our everyday programming, how we run everything, and what we've got going on. So,
Brendan, there's a clicker. See if that works beside you.
all right, just basic rundown. You may have heard this before. Why do we have stormwater? We are required to by a MS4 permit that's issued by the State of North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. Our permit number is NCS 000394. We maintain anything that stormwater gets to, ditch, pipe, catch basins outside of Lake Park Boulevard, which is DOT, and there's a little gray area on ocean, but most of the time we maintain the stormwater on ocean. We also make sure all of our facilities on town are maintained. They've got proper permitting. They're doing everything right on the pollution side of things. We also, as most people most commonly know, we help mitigate flooding. We try to control all lake levels. We maintain pumps. We try to get all the water out of people's yards and into a ditch, into the marina, wherever it goes. We also try to help educate public. Part of the reason why I'm here, why we're going to be a little bit more in front of whether it's y'all or general public. Let everybody know what we're doing, why we're doing it. Our regulations and enforcement for our stormwater program are given to us via the Chapter 32 of our ordinance and the Clean Water Act via our NCS and MS4 permit.
2 questions for you.
Go for it.
Number one, you said there's a bit of gray area on Dow. Is that because of DOT and Matsu?
Yeah.
Is
Dow Ocean's a DOT road as well. We do most of the maintenance of that. Dow is very much so Matsu and DOT as well. Do you know?
Yeah, the other one was the education piece. A recommendation that I've been throwing out there is that during the summer at the farmer's market, the town was to throw up some sort of a tent. So that said CB, residents, visitors, could always just 1 or 2. We had employees there. That would tie into a piece of that educational piece. Bruce?
We've actually just recently had that conversation about them setting something up.
Yeah, we talked about that, and then through one of the council meetings, somebody brought up a car show, and we thought about also being involved in that. One of the popular pollutants is vehicular fluids, so we talked about possibly setting something up for that as well.
The lady, her name's Lisa, I believe.
Yes.
Reach out to her, see about. I'm sure she'd love to have a tent or somebody there representing CB.
Yeah, so we've been in discussion of getting that set up.
And then maybe even talk to, I think Elena said she may have a tent, the woman who runs the chamber.
Okay. Yeah, I know we've got some stormwater stuff and some free goodies as well that we could try to hand out.
Thanks.
All right, general operations. Our stormwater staff is 6 full-time members. We have 1 open position currently. We have 1 permit reviewer and a stormwater system manager, which is myself, and we all report to the Director of Public Works. Kind of how we operate, we do quarterly maintenance and inspections of the Canal Drive outfall valves. That's typically checking our check valves, make sure, which normally work, but during very high tides, as we've seen, sometimes do allow water to come up through our stormwater drains. We do inspect those. During rain events, we are constantly out driving. If it is raining, you see stormwater out. We're checking catch basins. We're checking trash racks, which are just a little rebar that goes in front of inlets and outlets to try and keep stuff out. We're checking all of that. We're checking our ponds. We're checking the lake, obviously, pumps, everything like that. All the ponds are inspected. That's every one that the town maintains. After large rain events, technically right now, I think we're operating under every 2-inch rain. It's been pretty frequent. We're inspecting all those ponds, making sure there's no damage to them, making sure they're still draining properly. There's no issues with those ponds because obviously we don't want our outfalls blocking, we don't want our inlets blocking. We really need to make sure that stuff stays clear. We also check all the trash racks that we know of, which we have, I believe, currently 24-ish trash racks that we maintain, and if we know a storm is coming, the guys are out there. They're going to every single one, making sure they are clear, because if they're not, that's gonna issue more flooding, and we don't wanna deal with that. We checked, there are 7 sedimentation vaults along with trash racks. Pipe system, that's 5,147. I actually don't think that's even been updated for the last 2 weeks. So we've done a lot of pipe cleaning with our Vector truck. That is right now our main thing we are trying to get clear, is clean out all of that pipe, because there is a lot of buildup and it's just there. Street sweeping, 416 miles of road. Again, I don't think that includes the last 2 weeks. We average about 10 miles of street sweeping a day, as long as it's not raining. We maintain and operate our 5 primary stations, which those are the 3 pumps at the lake. We have a pump at 2nd and Greenville. That is always there, it's an electric pump, and the pump at Texas Snapper. Those 2 pumps operate on a wet well system. Once they fill up, they turn on, they pump them to different lakes. The pond pumps obviously are gasoline, we cut those on and off manually. They do have an automatic trigger if it gets high enough.
When you say once it fills up, is there a way to upgrade that to where maybe once it hits 2/3?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, it's a set number, so it's not, they're not getting all the way full. No, we're talking, I'd have to check, I don't know exactly what level it is, but it is not at the top. They do pump long before that. We also have 3 currently 6-inch auxiliary pumps, working on getting the 4th one. One of those right now is set up at Texas Snapper, always is there. Another one is at 2nd and Spartanburg, pretty much stays there, it gets cut on pretty frequently. And then we have a 3rd one that can be moved. Sometimes it's set up at Ocean Ridge Pond, sometimes it's set up Greenville, it moves around. We're hoping to get a 4th one, because then we have plenty of extras. We also have 2 and 3-inch pumps that can be moved around. The lake and pond oversight, obviously everybody knows about the lake. That's everybody's favorite thing. So we maintain the lake along with a bunch of other ponds. The pumps run to ponds and a couple other ones that the town has acquired over the years, including obviously Town Hall Pond.
Really quick, can you go back to that?
Yep.
So the first thing, the trash racks, those
Yep.
are the metal grates that people see outside.
Those are the metal grates in front of like actual inlet, like pipe inlets.
So you said the town has 24-ish
Yeah, 24-ish.
that the town maintains?
Yes.
Okay, so then how many are there that residents maintain, and do we send them things to remind them that they should be doing their part?
Normally, we don't recommend residents put in their own. If they do,
No, not put in, because like, I have 2 on my street,
right.
and this, I have never seen a town employee there until I've called.
Okay.
So I know there probably are a few others that,
And that's something that we're
and
working
as a
on.
resident who has one, I just know I need to do my piece. So if there's others that residents could do, be a part of the solution versus the problem, then.
Right. No, and I understand that, and some of my employees that work with me have been here longer, and they probably know where a lot of those are, so it would not be too much of a challenge to get that properly documented.
And then
Brandon, the only thing I was gonna bring up was, you had mentioned the street sweeping. That's the thing that we see occasionally hear from residents. I don't think they understand the importance of that program and keeping, the purpose of sweeping the street is to keep it out of this stormwater system. And likewise on residents, I know in my community occasionally we'll have someone who's blowing their leaves and stuff into the storm drain, and we have to remind them that is exactly the opposite of what they should do. We should be trying to keep everything we can out of those storm drains.
Right.
maybe something, the utility bill, and bright yellow thing says, hey, friendly reminder, pay attention to this, this, and this.
And that's what we've looked at, doing some stuff like that. There's a couple things I'll talk about later about getting some informational flyers out to people. And our street sweeper operator is actually pretty good about stopping and telling people, hey, mainly because it's his streets, he's very proud of the sweeping he does, so he doesn't want to see people blowing things in the road.
The car shows where you're gonna come out making a bang.
Yeah. So, kind of going along with that, typical day in stormwater, our sweeper starts at 7 a.m. because I think that's as early as he can start due to noise. He gets going during the busy season. He pretty much is running Canal, Lake Park, the boardwalk area, and he might be able to hit some side streets while he's doing that. Once the peak season's over, he tries to hit every road about once every 6 months. Averages approximately 10 miles a day, and like you said, it's technically preventative maintenance because it's removing sediment from getting into our storm drain system. Our supervisor starts. He's the one that pretty much is in charge of our lake. He goes to the lakes, checks the pumps, checks fluids, checks fuel, looks at the level, looks at the weather. Do we need to pump? How much? He also is very good about going around and identifying issues, especially when it's raining. He's been here a while. He's done it for a long time. He knows where there are problems at. Field staff arrives. I give them their work for the day. That can be running the Vector truck, getting out there, cleaning pipe. That can be digging around and fixing a sinkhole. That can be just general maintenance. We got ditches that are overgrown, grab some weed eaters, hit it. things like that. Depends on the day. Our permit reviewer receives the permits for fill grade, clear, and drainage. He reviews those. He also looks at active sites and makes sure that they are in compliance. And then my job, I'm pretty much the first contact for people. I want all the calls to come to me, talk to me. I'm more than happy to come out, meet with people on site, figure out what the issue is. If it's on private property, I'm more than happy to try and help you. Obviously, we don't work on private property, but I can maybe point you in the right direction. Also, I try to make sure all of our documentation's kept up and DEQ doesn't come knocking on our door again.
Can you go back to that slide?
Yep.
Permit reviewer.
Yep.
So at our last meeting 2 weeks ago, I don't know if you watched it, but a resident came up and she was very passionate about one of the developers not adhering to this properly.
Mhm.
So when it says that this person is at all active construction sites, are they out there daily going to each one, making sure they
We're
truly are in
getting that now.
compliance?
So I'm working with our permit reviewer. I have experience with that erosion control inspections. Working with him, getting out there. I'm looking at them as well when I stop. If I'm driving around, if I see an issue, I stop.
So let's say worst case scenario, you go out there and you say the job's 2/3 done and they're not in compliance. What do we typically do?
We send nasty grams. We've started sending out the letters of, hey, we review the drainage plan, review the state's ordinance on erosion control, what's supposed to be going on. It's like, hey, you need to do this. We have the planning departments all works with us very well, code enforcement, to allow us to use that. They're more than happy to help us when we need it.
So let's say worst case scenario, they don't do anything, then what? Because those are questions we get from residents.
Yeah, the worst case scenario, we go to building inspector and request him to help us, and normally he is willing to either issue the $500 fine because he will not issue his inspections.
Okay.
So it typically stops, we
Yeah.
can put stop work orders. Typically we try to work around that. Most of the time people are receptive once we talk to them.
Okay.
So, but that's the worst case scenario.
Cool.
Problem resolution. So when we have these issues, they come typically either to Sheila, Bruce, myself, or Public Works Director, and they are filed normally to me. And at that point, we review them. If we have something that we can do immediately to fix it, we do it. If it's something that isn't going to need equipment or work, we add it to the job list. We have job lists depending on what all needs. Pipes backed up, Vector trucks needed. That goes on the Vector truck. TLC jobs, is there a lot of erosion occurring? Do we need to repair riprap? Do we need to, essentially TLC jobs are anything that does not require groundbreaking. Just a little work here and there. Regrading some ditches and swales, we've done that as well. Camera jobs, when we just have no idea what's going on. We have a camera, we'll send in the pipe. We did one the other day, try to find out where these issues are coming. With the camera, we were able to locate that somebody had a little yard inlet in their backyard, never knew it was there. That's why they had standing water. We were able to help them with their issue. And then repair jobs are the big time jobs, sinkholes, anything like that, where we're gonna have to break ground, dig in, build a box, do whatever, fix the pipe. We also, if it's gonna be something that needs money, is it gonna be contractor, is it something we can do right away? If so, we work on it, get contractors in, get some quotes, get everything moving. If not, that's when this may be where we've had some issues in the past, is keep that line of communication open. I try to be forward to people if it's something that's not going to be able, even some of those ones that we can afford to do right now, not going to happen right away. So we try to work with our residents to talk like, hey, here's what, we have the plan, it's right here. Keep that line of communication. If it's something that's going to have to be next budget year, hey, here's some ideas we can do in short term, and long term, here's what we're going to do to get your problem fixed. And then obviously, long term, we try to work it into the next budget, and I work with the Public Works Director to make sure that everything's ready to go. So this is a famous list.
You need to take a breather, go right ahead. You're just rolling straight through.
Well, this one's just a kind of, everybody, or I know y'all have seen this list. It came from the week of August 1st to 7th. We got about 12 inches of rain. There is a lot of issues that popped up. Obviously, this is a list that was on there before. You can read through it if you want, but what I like to look at is what we've completed to knock out things on that list. So we've had things, the Somersault Lane flooding and St. Joe's flooding. We were able to reach out to Publix Pond, worked out to their contractors, found out that their pond their outfall did have a clog in it.
So did you guys find a clog and get it
They did. They got it
Right?
cleared.
Did it help downstream get
It-
it drained out?
From what I understand, yes, it's
Have
helped
you
some.
gone out and looked at it? From what you understand, does that mean you went out and looked
Yes,
at it?
I've been out and looked at it.
Okay,
I've
so
looked at
did
that one and the Carolina Beach Village Pond, which we're working with that HOA as well.
So when you found the clog, did you guys run a line down there?
We didn't know,
Outfall
so we
pipe?
did not find the clog. The contractors found the clog.
Okay, so did you ask them to video it or look
They,
at it to make
when they
sure?
cleared it, I met them on site and saw them clearing it, so they were supposed, I
What
said,
I'm getting at is sometimes just finding one blockage isn't always enough. So as we spend time videoing our own systems, if we're running into a problem on those big ponds, please ask the pond owner to provide some verification that they've checked the entire line through their property.
Yes, sir.
Okay, because it's more than just sometimes one clog.
Right.
They find a clog, they're like, oh, that's it. Well, it's not always it. And as you said, you've pulled out, I don't know how many tons of sand out of our pipes.
right.
I'm just saying,
Yep.
you gotta go from point A to point B, not just the first clog, okay, we're done.
Right.
I'm not saying
No.
that's what they did, I'm just saying, please ask them to verify it.
I understand. And I will say with that pond, because it is a state permitted pond, we permit it, but it's through state regulations.
Okay, but as a state pond, we went through this before, they're only required to inspect it annually.
They respect theirs
Okay.
monthly,
Okay,
so, I'm,
okay, whatever.
they report it to us annually, they inspect that pond monthly, so, but they are required to check all steps from the inlet all the way to the outlet.
I think, Brandon, really quick, I think what Steve means is that if we can, it'd be great to have a list of all the properties that do have something along that lines,
Mhm.
and then make sure that we have something in place that says, hey, they've double-checked beyond issue number one, so that the town feels comfortable in case of an event.
Okay. And that was something later on that we're working on, is getting a list and getting what the requirements are for privately owned ponds, so. But we worked on St. Joe's with that, there is in the budget to clear the wetlands down there properly, by hand, so we're working on getting our landscape contractor, along with some others, to look at it, see how much, get that done, because there's a lot of overgrowth of non-native vegetation that needs to be removed.
Where it curves? St.
Yeah,
Joe's,
right where it
that's
goes underneath St. Joe's. So, right through there. Raleigh Monroe, it's an ongoing project, obviously, but we're working with a homeowner on a private ditch.
So really quick, I don't mean to cut you off, I'm sorry.
Oh, go for it.
At that bend, the reason we're mitigating the wetlands is to better the storm system? Is that what you were just saying?
Yeah, right now we believe the overgrowth in there is helping stop water. I've spoken with, I believe, Bruce and Public Works Director about, the possibility of those pipes need to be increased in size that go under St. Joe's, but right now there is cattails and all types of invasive vegetation and problem vegetation growing in that wetland right there. And
The reason I'm asking is St. Joseph, are we putting a bike path, a multi-use? What are we specifically going to be putting there? Because that's something that's gonna
Bike
affect.
path.
It's a bike path, yeah.
Okay, that's what I was getting
so,
at.
yeah.
Thanks.
Raleigh Monroe, working with a homeowner that owns a private ditch on that property. We've spoken to him about cleaning that out to help some of that, alleviate some of that situation. 400 block of Tennessee, similar situation. We went out, vectored all the pipes, catch basins, could not find a blockage, traced it all the way down to a private ditch as well that has gotten overgrown. Been in contact with that private owner, no problem. It's working on getting proper permitting so he can get in there and clean that out. Columbia, we had two different ones on Columbia, or issues. We met with homeowners. It's on private property for the most part, but we've worked with them. On one case, he wants to tie in to our system, which we're fine with. He understands the risk of, hey, if it does really rain really hard, it may back up, but he's fine with it. He just wants it somewhere drained. So we're working with them to tie into our system. South Fifth Street was an area that had flooding. We cleaned out basins, cleaned out ditches. We actually have installed riprap to try and keep sediment out of the basin again. 601 Canal is where we had a massive washout during a large rain event. We are in the process of getting that, working with Jeremy to make sure we have all the proper CAMA permits so that we can repair that and have that done. We had a pinfish issue with a bunch of flooding. Essentially, we went in there, had some construction, sediment in there, removed quite a lot of sediment from that line. Probably hadn't been touched in a while, so we were able to get all that out. There's been a lot of construction concerns. I've been working with our permit reviewer and our building inspector on getting out to all these construction sites that were having issues from neighbors or the issues they acknowledged, and helping figure out a situation to address those flooding/drainage issues. That's just some of our pictures, some of the stuff we've done. We also installed a new BMP at the boardwalk. That's what the little wooden grate is. I'm sure some of you may have seen, we've been having some little bit of flooding right there at the south showers. That's to help do that, so it has more capacity to hold that. We've been putting some riprap around inlets and outlets. That helps keep, sediment from washing out. That one, in that case, but 6 and Fayetteville had some very bad erosion around it that was causing a lot of sediment to get into our pipes. And then we got our Vector crew. You ever see them out? Say hey. They're friendly most of the time. So, upcoming projects, what everybody wants to know about. So this is just a list of what all we are working on. We have a sinkhole in Spartanburg. We've identified it. We know what's going on. It's currently not causing really any issue. Water is still able to flow through, but it needs to be fixed. We're working on that one. We've worked with a contact with Beach Community Church. In the front of their yard is a massive, it's a pond when it rains. So we're working with them, us installing a pipe and them being a catch basin on their property, and because the flooding is outside the right of way. St. Joe's Overland Wash, there's an area right there at that curve that water is hopping off the road and is washing out somebody's yard. So we are working on, got 811, already called in, so what we're going to do is build a small swale and berm to help this woman. We've got some problems at Florida, Maryland. Essentially, there's a catch basin that's covered, working on getting that cleared out, cleaning the line, and then a lot of that needs to be regraded so water will actually come off the road into the catch basins. A lot of flooding concerns. We've got a massive list of things that need to be done with the Vector truck. It's never going to go away. It just keeps getting added to it. The Vector guys are running. As long as it's not raining, they're out running. So we just can't run in the rain. Canal Drive, we're obviously working on getting our outfalls inspected. We've got a lot of right-of-way ditches that need some attention. I've been working with the public works director and our landscapers because technically they're trying to help us do that. But some of the small stuff we don't mind handling for them if we can do it with the weed eater. Island Marina's got a sinkhole. We've gotten quotes for that. Should start working on that.
Brandon, on that one, before you go past it, so
Yep.
my understanding at the Island Marina was that actual outflow pipe that goes through that property is, we cambered that and that's compressed at some point? Are we addressing the entire problem or are we just fixing the sinkhole?
So I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if we've cambered that yet. Right now we are working on getting a quote from a contractor to address the sinkhole issue. However, if that's a compressed line, then I will get somebody out there.
I got that from the property owner, so
Yeah, we will check that. I will make sure that's checked. With all of our budgeted projects, we're in the process of getting all of our quotes to get those knocked out. We've been working with the wastewater plant because they've got stormwater issues of their own, and we really need them to be able to work when it's raining really hard. So we want to make sure that they're not getting flooded out. This is where the information things come up. We're working with pool owners to make sure they know how to properly, if they're going to drain their pool, either goes to sanitary sewer or don't put it on your neighbors, essentially. You also need to check it, make sure that the chlorine is below 1 part per million to discharge it to stormwater. So we're just kind of putting together a pamphlet that can go out to those. And then there's the requirement of maintenance and operation for private ponds.
Are you sending those pamphlets to the HOAs and the pool owners, or are you also sending that to the pool service companies?
Both.
I'm assuming
the plan
that-
is to do both.
Okay, good. Thank
So,
you.
no, that's not all the projects. Obviously, we have a whiteboard full of them, of things that need to get done. So that's a little bit. That's my information. One of the things that bugs me personally is when I hear people say that they can't get a hold of me. It's right there. Please call me. Like I said, between 7 and 4, I'm available. If I don't answer, leave me a voicemail. I'll call you back. I prefer emails. It's easier for me to keep track of my emails, but that's what it is. I'm available every weekday, ironically, except this Friday 'cause I'm off. But most of the time, it's 7 to 4 every day. We also have our on-call number. If it's a storm and you need to get a hold of somebody, there is somebody on that line every day. So we've talked with all of my guys. They now know. We had the discussion of you answer that phone if you are on call. So those are the contacts for stormwater. Anybody who needs me, please reach out. Be happy to answer the phone, happy to answer questions, whatever it takes.
So, Brandon, a couple of questions for you.
Yep.
And these are really coming from public questions I've got, and I think you have the answers, so I'm not trying to set you up here. I think it's worth noting. So you talked about all the dozens and dozens of things that your crew basically has to check regularly. Pumps, drains, outflow pipes, all of these things. Can you talk about the discipline how do you know what those guys are gonna work on today?
So a lot of what we work on is based on how big the problem is or what the weather. Weather dictates a lot. Obviously, when we've got big storms rolling in, we've got to make sure everything's going to flow as well as we can get it. So that's when pumps are checked, make sure they're ready to go. That's when trash racks are checked. And even once trash racks are checked, we're doing a full drive around. So they know we have a checklist of all the ones to go to. As they go around, they know if they see a catch basin that's covered with pine straw, we clean it off.
And do you keep a record of that?
Yes.
So you keep a record of what they went and checked? Because I hear that a lot. I know this is a silly example, but a lot of times, you know, people say, you didn't clean the bathrooms, but you go in a hotel and they keep a little,
Right.
oh, somebody signed off that it was clean this morning. That helps the impression that, yeah, this is a recent event. We did check that. So I'm glad to hear that you're keeping records. That's good.
So the only suggestion, not the only suggestion, a suggestion might be to work with staff in other departments, certainly operations and utilities, and let them know if they drive by and they see one of those curb inlet grate covers that's clogged up. They'll just stop. Most of them have a truck. They can stop and in 30 seconds pull the pine straw, the plastic bags, and the trash off. There's one on 7th Street right behind your building that's been clogged up for a week.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's been a week and no one's cleaned it. I mean, so, I mean, every employee in town hall that drives out that back door drives by it, either if they go one way or the other.
Right.
So I just, it's a matter, you can't do every one of them, I get that. Your 5 or 6 guys can't do every one, but we got operations guys, if they drive by it. And Joe Dan, to answer your question earlier, as a resident, if you see it, it's not gonna break your heart or their heart if you just stop and pull the stuff and throw it in the trash can. It's just common sense, we've gotta help them as well. So if you see that kind of stuff, just take the 30 seconds and push it off, and I'd ask you to get the rest of the staff to do that.
Right. Okay.
Steve, I'll bet you it won't be clogged up this afternoon. And Brandon, that's a great presentation, and we appreciate, and obviously you've done your homework and it's very comprehensive, so I'm glad to see you're on top of it. Are there any more questions for Brandon? And I agree with Steve, by the way, we need to train everybody to do that. I mean, he can't be everywhere, you
The
know.
only comment I had for Brandon was, as a recently new employee in a very hot topic, I've had a number of residents who have commented about you coming and working with them, and they're very positive. So I know those interactions are tough, because usually when someone calls you, they're mad, as they should be. And the fact that they still leave a positive comment with a council person about your interaction says a lot about you. So thank you for that.
I do have one question. So Henniker's Ditch,
Yep.
is it the personal property owner's responsibility to keep that clear?
If we do not have an easement, yes.
Okay.
The two that we have examples of, we don't have easements through there. That's kind of an issue we're talking through.
Because we have an example in Charlotte right now that,
Right,
Well-
yeah, there's no easement there.
Just to be clear on it, whether we got an easement or not, yes, it's the private, if the ditch is on your property, it is your responsibility to maintain it.
Right.
The town can and occasionally has, but we have gone on other properties against recommendation of our council, our legal counsel, to do that. The county, 2 years ago, initiated a new policy that said, if you have a ditch on your property and you don't clean it, the county's gonna notice you, and then they're gonna come clean it, and they're gonna lien your property and make you pay for it. So it is something that our public needs to understand. If you have a ditch on your property, you should clean it. If it's something, I mean, we had parts of Henniker's Ditch hadn't been cleaned in 20 years and had trees 8 and 10 inches around, and we had to go out and help with that to protect the integrity of the ditch side. But on a regular basis, you should be out there picking up the debris that's blocking, whether it's sticks or twigs or stumps. I mean, yes.
and,
Clean it.
and the only other thing I have to say is stormwater is a tough gig, right? You guys take a beating. I mean, no one calls you up after a storm and say, hey, this was fantastic. I didn't have any water in my yard. But the only time these things arise is when we have 6, 8 inches of rain or a hurricane. So if the public really wants to respect what you guys do, I highly recommend that they read the weekly update. Every single week, you guys pound it, and we appreciate it. So thank you.
And just a comment to Steve's comment. Last year, we did go out and clean out quite a few of the homeowners' areas that were abutting Henniker's Ditch to get it to a point where they could maintain it themselves, because it was past their maintenance that they could maintain it. So I believe we did that to those property owners last year. So it is their responsibility moving forward to keep it clean.
Brandon, welcome to Carolina Beach. It was a great presentation.
Very good.
Thank
Our
you.
residents are extremely vocal, which I'm sure you've learned. It was nice meeting you the other day, so keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon. Managers update?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. One note on stormwater, that was another one of those bills put in the budget, policy issues put in the budget that would prevent towns from adopting stormwater ordinances above and beyond what the state already has. So that was something, another policy that's in the budget. But that happens every time there's a budget, so a lot of them will be taken out before a budget's passed and negotiating tool. Want to let you know that we did get bids. We had 5 bidders on the Hamlet Ocean Rescue bathroom facility. The lowest bid was $777,000. The highest bid was $968,000. That's a big range, but most of them fell. Well, 3 fell closer to the $800,000 mark, and 2 were up in the $900,000. But we've met with the low bidder. We've talked with him. We're going out and verifying some of his work. He just completed a project in Wrightsville Beach. We're looking at that. But we feel good. We've talked to him. His numbers matched up to what we'd sort of what we've come up with. A lot of the bidders had used the same contractors on some of the parts of the bid, so we feel good with that. And I'll answer any questions, but if council so pleases, I'd request authorization to negotiate and enter an agreement to construct the restrooms. That would just give me the opportunity to negotiate with the contractor. We'd have to come back with a project ordinance to approve the funding of the budget.
So if we go over in the funding piece, ROT will kick in?
ROT, we've had conversations with the TDA that said that debt service that we take for a restroom, public restroom that, the tourists and others use could be reimbursed for ROT dollars.
Yeah. Well, we have
to build it first. We would have to borrow the money, build it, then we.
Yeah, borrow the money, and then we would just,
Yeah.
every year,
Okay.
ask for a reimbursement on the debt service.
Yeah, this Hamlet thing, we got to get it done. Period.
Agreed.
Are we going to the cheapest because it's the cheapest? And are we gonna give up quality where maybe that middle one could be the best?
Well,
or-
we have to go with the lowest responsible bidder, and right now, he's the lowest. And from everything we can gather right now, he's a responsible bidder. We will check on other projects and talk to other places he's worked. He's done
So we've actually checked the property in Wrightsville that he did?
No, that's part of this negotiating, and then we're verifying all that.
Okay.
We did meet with the contractor after the low bid, felt comfortable about that, but our project managers are going to some site visits, and then Ed and I will be talking to, Wrightsville and some of the other places he's worked locally.
If everything's smooth sailing, would we anticipate to have that before next summer?
The project timeline, if we negotiate and agree, would it start work September 20th and be finished in mid to late March.
Okay.
So do you need a motion from us?
Yes, motion to authorize me to negotiate.
So
and
I'll
enter an
make a
agreement.
motion to authorize town manager to pursue contract negotiations on the Hamlet bathrooms.
Okay, motion on the floor, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Just a question, who will you have being the project manager on that?
We have 2 now. We have Paula Kempton and Ben Meiser, and they are doing a fabulous job right now managing this whole process. They're actually going to, I believe, save us money over long term on some of these projects. They're a good team.
So, who did you say?
Ben Meister,
I can't hear you.
Ben Meister, and
Okay.
Paula Kempton. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Ben, he's good. All right, very good.
All right.
Well, that's always been an issue for us in the past, is someone being on top of the project,
Yes.
so.
And next item, coastal storm damage mitigation. Not really anything to report. The mayor and I will be meeting with the Army Corps next week for some updates. They're still proceeding like there's funding there, but they're going to give us updates what they've heard federal funding. But next week they haven't set the time yet. But there will be
What's
a
that
meeting.
date?
They haven't said it. It's either
Okay, I
Tuesday
thought
or
I missed
Wednesday.
it, but they hadn't said, okay.
Right, yeah, Tuesday or Wednesday. So hopefully we'll have some information one way or the other. But they've been working on the bids and specs, and they're ready to proceed as if they had the funding.
So we don't have an answer still,
Still
to be
not
clear,
other than
on this fall.
we're very confident it'll be funded for next year if it doesn't get funded now. But like we keep saying, we've been saying a month ago it had to be done right now, or it'd be tough to get the project.
So they're requesting a meeting. I saw that email, but they did not give us a date and time.
Right,
Okay.
we asked for available dates, so.
And then the actual, who would actually say, okay, the time has passed? That would basically when the Corps says, yeah, the money's not gonna be moved in time, so we're really.
Right.
it's
I think
kinda in
the
their
Corps will
hands.
tell us they can't, because of, turtle season, everything else, they have to start at this date. So they need to, so.
It's probably pushed off till next year.
Yeah.
And no one wants to say that, but that's probably the reality.
But as long as they haven't given up, let's keep pushing.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And finally, Lake Dredge, I hope to have some more information, but actually our project managers are right now at the same time meeting with our engineer who's been working on it, working on the permitting and working on the options we have. I will say they've looking at some of the things they look at are the geotex bags where you could fill and let drain, and also the bulkhead around portions of the lake to put some fill. And we have had another person reach out about disposal spoils. We're investigating every option there. We have talked to the county landfill. It's probably one of the more expensive options, but that is an option to dispose of land spoils. So we getting some options and people reaching out.
So have we figured out if we decide to do a bulkhead, percentage of the spoils we could?
That's one of the
Okay.
things I'm hopefully finding out from the engineers right now, what percentage it could take and then versus what it does to the surface area of the lake. You know, does it offset anything? Is there an advantage to it when it comes to spoil? So that's a calculation we're hoping to get from them, that what it would help, how it would help.
Mark and Ed have anticipated hopefully using some for the treatment plant.
I'm sorry for the.
Mark and Ed, they spoke about possibly being able to use some of that for the.
We plan to. We've got from the last time dredge. Those spoils will be used for the headworks at the treatment plant. Until something changes with Matsu, of course, no more spoils can go there unless something changes there, which is ongoing too. And that's all I have.
I had something for you.
Okay.
I had reached out to you, I don't know, a week or so ago about some potholes on Canal and some of the side streets that are beyond dangerous.
Right.
And they've been out there for several months. So in our PAL bill, did we not, over the last couple of years, hire a company that's supposed to go around and put hot mix in those?
Yep, we did.
Okay, so I saw that you guys went out after I commented to you, and you guys put a white spray paint around, a square around a number of these. And then someone took a bunch of marl and just put a little bit of rock in each one of these holes that lasted about 2 days. So we're going on another 2 weeks.
Right.
And there are, on Canal, at least 4, if not 6, potholes that are dangerous to the point where you have all that traffic going in and out of the north end in Freeman Park. I mean, we've got a curb inlet that's dropped 4 inches. It's been like that for 2 months.
Right.
I don't understand if we've hired a company on call to fix these potholes and they go and put a white stripe around it and fill it with mar. I just don't understand what's take so long for them to go cut them out, put the rock in and hot patch it. It's just.
We've hired a new company that we.
Okay, well, we hired, I know,
Yeah,
Bruce, but
yeah.
I mean, it's getting, let's get it fixed.
Yeah.
These are like, shouldn't take more than a week to fix a half a dozen or a dozen of those.
Right.
You can't pull out of the Scotchman. If you guys, for those of you who don't travel up in that area, go into the Scotchman on the corner of or whatever that is, Pelican, and you come out, okay? It's a tough intersection anyway. There's a 4-foot pothole on each side of the road. You cannot pull out of the gas station and turn onto Canal. You go another block in front of the restaurant there, and there's a curb inlet in the middle of the road that's dropped 4 inches. So every car that, if you're following someone and you don't jump to the right and hit our residents that are walking, your front end gets whacked. I mean, it's really bad, Bruce, and I don't think I should have to keep bringing it up. So
It is, and like I said, we went and hired a new contractor because we weren't getting it done. So we're hopefully.
Okay,
it'll be
my other
done.
question is, can we get a report on our beach patrol folks that we hired? I'd like to specifically know how many monetary citations we've actually written. Because I'm getting reports that we're not writing citations, that the people we've hired are not empowered to actually do that. They call the police don't actually want to come. I mean, it's not, the whole idea was to enforce our rules on the beach, which included writing tickets, including fining people, and we keep getting this, we're going to educate, we're going to educate, we're going to educate. I'm not interested in hiring 3 people to add to staff to educate. And if our police officers are summoned and they don't show up, I'd like to know why. And if our enforcement officers that we've hired and empowered to write citations and patrol the beach are not empowered to write a ticket or uncomfortable doing that, then we've got the wrong people or we haven't given them the power to do it. So either get them fixed, but it's not working. And we've added 3 people to the town payroll, and I don't believe we've written one or more than a handful of fines that we're actually collecting. So I'd like to get a report at council specifically on that program.
I'll get the numbers. They are empowered to write tickets. It's a technology. So they don't have the equipment, and it's through the police, and they're getting rid of new one, and it was going to be a major expense. So
Well, then, I mean, geez, I go get a speeding ticket and they don't have technology. They write a handwritten citation. I don't know. It's kind of frustrating, Bruce, because it always seems like we're just not quite there. And you guys know what the average employee costs when you add the load and multiply that by 3. Why are we doing it?
Are those seasonal positions or?
they're seasonal, part-time position. Yeah, seasonal. And we've been getting reported a lot of compliance, and that was the ultimate goal. A lot of compliance on the things. We've seen there are issues that, but I'll get a report on how many citations. But
Yeah, I think the issue.
I've been told that they're asking for police support and the police are less than excited and unwilling to show up and write the citation. First of all, I don't think they should have to ask the police. They should write the darn ticket. Unless someone is physically belligerent or abusive, then you can call the police and arrest the person. But I think if we're hiring people to patrol the beach and enforce our rules, they ought to be empowered and not back away from saying, I'm sorry, sir, here is your ticket, have a nice time. I mean, we need to put some teeth in it, or let's not do the program, one or the other, but let's not kid ourselves.
So just a comment, Councilman Shuttleworth is correct on all points, and it is very frustrating. And yes, we did add 3 people to the payroll, and I don't understand. Are they not able to write tickets?
they have the legal authority to, and it's a real complicated issue with the technology, how our ticketing system works. Next year, they will be fully integrated with ticketing systems to do it all. This year, it was not. But they have gotten tremendous compliance from what I hear from police and the Ocean Rescue and lifeguards, that they're going saying you can't have bottles. People take the bottles and get rid of them. They've got a lot of compliance, which is ultimately our goal as Ocean or Beach Patrol. But they have not been writing monetary tickets at the level we expected.
I think that, Bruce, I think what Steve's and Leanna bringing up is we all feel the crushing crowds that we have had in the last 2 seasons, and that seems to be increasing and increasing and increasing. So as density of people goes up, enforcement's going to have to go up.
Yep.
And in the past, we have been hesitant. We're a tourism economy, so we try to educate. But I think the public is getting tired of educate only. And I think that's what you're hearing from council up here. You're hearing it with all kinds of issues. We had it back when we had fireworks. We have it on the beach issues. Now, I don't necessarily think we're saying let's swing the pendulum completely to the other side. But at some point, I'll be honest, when I see those weekly reports, and here's a weekly report, and I know we've had a massive weekend, and we wrote 2 civil citations. Mm-hmm. I can write 2 in an hour. I could take you in my car right now, and I guarantee you we'll find 2 people in an hour.
I would just tell you this, and it's not going to be real popular, but I'm going to say it. It's about making money. Okay? I look at other beach communities that are doing this, and they're bringing in $500,000, $600,000 a year, and our public's tired of us raising our tax rates, raising our utility rates, and placating to all of our visitors. I like the visitors. I understand the importance of that, but either follow the rules or write a check. And it is about the revenue. I'm all about compliance, but at some point, they need to be, it is about the revenue as well. I know that's not popular, but I've never been one to worry about popular.
What?
Plus, as soon as you start writing citations, you're going to see a big behavioral change of the people that come here, without a doubt.
So we have effectively moved into non-agenda items. So, Steve, did you have anything else?
No, that's enough for me today.
Okay.
Are we on non-agenda?
Go ahead. You want to start on that end down
Well,
there?
before we finish the beach patrol, when does that season end for them?
Scheduled
Roughly.
in
Just roughly.
Labor Day. We'll have still have lifeguards on duty past Labor Day, but the Beach Patrol Labor
I
Day.
think why everyone's so passionate about this is that when they were introduced in June to council, that was one of the criteria that we were told of, and then just that follow through on that piece fell through. So it needs to be a game plan that if we continue that next season, that needs to be ahead of the curve. I have no non-agenda items
Len?
today.
The only one I had, Bruce, is we mentioned a couple things during this session that are, it's concerning to see, I know it happens all the time, but it's always concerning to see these bills get moved into a budget amendment at the state level, and we're never quite sure what's going to happen. On the two that you mentioned, have we reached out, have you or should we reach out at the state level and say, hey, look, this whole tree ordinance thing, we don't want that? I mean, how do we get ahead of that curve?
We passed a resolution on that, but, yeah, I think reaching out, Lee, municipality sends us, I don't know, and I'll make sure you guys get them if you don't get them already.
I do.
A list of summaries of what they're wanting the elected officials to go after, and county jump, that's what the official law is. So there's some summaries there that, yeah, and you let it, council wants us to, do our pressure, you know, for you, let us know, we will, but yeah, they summarize, and they're another lobbyist for us.
Right, when
We agree with what they want to do, sometimes they chose positions we may not agree with, so.
Yeah, I think, speaking only for myself, but in general, one of the biggest problems being on council in any municipality is the amount of power that the state does not give you, right? We cannot do a lot of things. So anytime that I see the state trying to claw authority back from municipalities, I'm generally against it. So anything we can do to push back on that, that's my personal opinion.
Well, we did make a resolution a couple months ago, and that's our way of reaching out to let them know what our position is. So they certainly are aware that we made a resolution against that House bill.
I just have one. Mr. Oakley and myself are attending a Matsu meeting tomorrow in Leland, and I'm looking forward to reporting back what we found.
That's great.
What's the meeting in regards to, Jay?
Well, basically, it's with the other towns around us. It's going to be, hopefully, we're going to be looking for some land.
Jay filled the position that Mayor Benson was on before, and what are we calling that group? Joint land use, the joint Matsu with the towns. So Councilman, Mayor Pro Tem Healy is filling that position with the liaison to Matsu.
And
So all the towns around.
Yeah, this-
Las
Yes.
Vegas, Leland,
first time
Southport, all those
in
people.
2 years that
Yes,
that-
they have
that
not
met.
been meeting because of COVID.
It's going to be a relationship building meeting.
Okay, anything else?
Nope.
All right. My only question is, the email I sent you yesterday, did we inspect the community building?
Yes, we did, and it's getting treated, and, we replaced the refrigerator and getting cleaned.
And you told me, just for the rest of council, that it had somehow not been on the list of properties that needed to be treated.
Individual departments were managing these things, we've now put them under one umbrella so they make sure they get all the same treatment.
Okay, very good. Is there anything else in non-agenda items? Okay, if not, I'll make a motion that we go into closed session to discuss a personnel matter in accordance with NCGS 143.318.11.6. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you guys for being here, and we'll be